Welcome all my friends to another superb adventure of the Justice League as we discover Batman's hidden feelings for the Wonder Woman, where all of them find a mysteriously advanced gorilla civilization hidden away in the African deserts. It all began with a couple of archaeologists in Africa discovering the remains of prehistoric men, which could have been the greatest discovery in the history of mankind. Behind them, unnoticed by either of them, the desert mountain disappears. A dark-haired gorilla on a hoverbike speeds out of the city, pursued by a team of other gorillas who are revealed to be capable of speech as they turn back and see the humans.
Humans!
They return, and the city disappears. In Central City, Flash is gulping down burgers in a diner and boasting his heroics to nearby ladies about being the fastest man alive, or rather trying to. Unfortunately for the Flash, they look bored to tears. However, trouble starts when a large truck comes speeding down the street, shoving aside cars heedlessly. One of the cars comes flying through the window of the diner, nearly crushing the two ladies, just before Flash saves them. He questions the driver, who reveals a maniac ran him off. With this, Flash excuses himself and takes off after the truck, while the ladies now admire him. Flash quickly takes to the chase, but the driver refuses to slow down, while the passenger aims a futuristic-looking pistol at Flash and fires, missing several times. Although Flash has to slow down to save a couple who are about to be crushed by falling concrete, he catches up to the truck yet again. Finally, the chase leads to a bridge over the ocean, where the van skids off the side and teeters on the edge. The van and its occupants are narrowly saved from falling by Flash and John Stewart, the Green Lantern, arriving to give Flash a hand. In the back of the van, they find containers of radioactive isotopes. They check the driver's IDs and find that both are research scientists at the institute from which the isotopes were stolen. Both men appear to wake up, as if from a trance, and both claim not to remember what they were doing. At the institute, Flash and Lantern question the scientist's colleague, Dr. Sarah Corwin. Corwin says that she has no explanation for their behavior, except possibly stress from overwork. While she speaks to Lantern, Flash notices a couple of bananas and tries feeding an adult gorilla, which irritates Corwin. While Flash is grabbing a snack at the hot dog stand in the park, he and Lantern intercept a truly bizarre report. A gorilla has been sighted downtown, terrorizing citizens. However much the police try to catch the wild creature, he still escapes using his many acrobatic skills. And that's when he spots a man getting into his sports car. Funny enough, now the gorilla is driving the car as if he is hanging out from a branch in the wild. The Flash sees the funny side of it as well, and he chases down the car. Finally, Flash is able to stop the car after blasting the tires with a rake. However, he is surprised when the gorilla speaks, telling him to get away, and then Sarah Corwin, hiding on a rooftop, blasts Flash with some kind of energy ray. Now that will leave a permanent mark. Ouch! Soon afterwards, Flash has a series of bizarre hallucinations, almost as if he is being mentally tortured for a scientific experiment. He is then woken up by another prison mate, inside a jail cell. With Flash being confused enough already, the police show him a surveillance tape of him stealing the isotopes from the police impound. The officers offer some coffee to ease out the interrogation process, but the interrogation is cut short by the arrival of Green Lantern, who has paid Flash's bail to take him away, much to the annoyance of the two officers.
You actually posted bail for this lowlife?
Flash gets a good slap on the head by Lantern on the way out, pinning him down into another interrogation. Flash insists that he's innocent and can't explain why he was stealing the isotopes. The last thing he can remember is stopping the talking gorilla. Although Lantern is skeptical about it, he gives Flash the benefit of the doubt as they hurry to track the gorilla down. Somehow, the two Leaguers manage to track him down and come to peaceful terms with him. The gorilla introduces himself as Solovar, chief of security for Gorilla City. According to Solovar, they are a civilization of hyper-intelligent gorillas hidden away from mankind. Their city has been peaceful until recently, when Grodd, a genius gorilla scientist, went rogue and developed a mind control helmet that he tried to use to take over the other gorillas. The authorities developed a resistance to the helmet and chased Grodd out. But now he's sworn revenge on the city. Solovar also says his investigation has found an email correspondence between Grodd and the local scientist Sarah Corwin. Okay, I think we have found our local badass scientist here. Needing no further information, Flash streaks back to the Institute. Before Solovar can explain that he has a small supply of electronic headbands that will shield a person from Grodd's mind control. Flash goes to inspect the lab on his own. See now, guys, this is exactly why someone like the Flash always need a mentor on his back. He is so spontaneous. While Flash questions Sarah Corwin on the whereabouts of Grodd, the gorilla himself attacks and knocks the Flash out. By the time Solovar and Green Lantern get to the Institute, Grodd has already subdued Flash and placed him under mind control and uses him to attack Lantern. It takes a while for Green Lantern to get hold of Flash, and finally, Lantern knocks Flash out with much difficulty, but in the meantime, Grodd and Corwin have escaped. Grodd has used the isotopes to power a machine in the heart of Central City, which he activates before he and Corwin speed away on his hoverbike. Lantern and Solovar run to the machine, but then it gives off a colossal energy surge, like an explosion that covers the whole city and leaves nothing behind. Back in the Watchtower, Johns, Wonder Woman, and Hawkgirl notices the apparent absence of Central City and flies down in a javelin to check on the two heroes, since they did not respond to their radio contacts. Though there is nothing visible but a crater in the ground, the ship's sensors detect something there, and Wonder Woman thinks it has to be true because the ship was engineered by the Batman himself.
Batman designed the ship. If its sensors say something is there...
Now that's what I call a secret admirer. Just like they expected, the ship glances off something solid but invisible around the city. Landing, they realize there is a force field enclosing the city, which is quite impenetrable. The three of them try their best to knock it off and enter, but ends up getting bettered one after the other. Inside, Central City is intact, only hidden away from the outside world, just as the Gorilla City in the African lands. Lantern and Solovar, both awake now, meet with the much disoriented Flash. They update Flash about the ongoing situation as he has been under mind control up to now. At Central City, Grodd is now holding court in the city square, with a crowd of people under his mind control. Lantern, Flash, and Solovar all listen to his motivational speech to his human followers. Flash, being Flash, decides to open his big mouth and talk back at the big, angry gorilla. Identifying the three intruders, Grodd sets his puppets on them before flying off again. Lantern creates a crater around the other two and takes off in pursuit of the escaping Grodd. Flash and Solovar try to hold the mob at bay without injuring them, but it proves harder by the second. When they draw too close, after trying very, very hard, Flash picks up Solovar and runs through the crowd at super speed with him until they reach safety. Batman communicates with the Leaguers outside the city and says he has identified similar energy readings from a location in Africa. They agree to join with Batman at the location. As soon as they arrive, however, they are captured by the city's security forces, who believe they are spies from the outside. So much for trying to help the ones in need, am I right? Grodd and Corwin drive to a nearby military base where Grodd overcomes the soldiers with his helmet of mind control. Then he readily arms 4 nuclear missiles. Lantern, Flash, and Solovar arrive outside the base just as the missiles take off. Solovar realizes they are heading for Gorilla City. Lantern flies after them, while Flash and Solovar run into the base to stop Grodd. In Gorilla City, the other members are held as prisoners, as the natives believe they are spies. Now here is what is interesting, guys. Batman has his own superpowers, and one of those are his superb intelligence. That's what Batman uses here to get everyone free from their captives. Although they escape their captives, they find themselves trapped by the shield. As they are cornered by the gorillas, the shield malfunctions and shuts down. Seems like Grodd has left a sabotage device behind. At the same time, the gorillas detect the incoming missiles. To their surprise, the League offers to help them. Flying over the Atlantic Ocean, the Green Lantern manages to catch up with and disable 2 of the missiles. But as the second breaks up, a flying piece of debris hits him in the head, temporarily knocking him cold in midair. At the base, Grodd sees the 2 missiles go down and attacks Solovar in fury. Flash distracts him by patting his helmet down over his eyes. Grodd rounds up on Flash, who dodges his punches with ease. Lantern awakens and catches up with the missiles only in time to see them heading for the city. But the other Leaguers are waiting. John phases straight through one, extracting its guidance system and causing it to crash harmlessly. Hawkgirl smashes the last missile with her mace, breaking it into pieces, but the warhead stage is still heading for the city. As the gorillas scream in panic, Diana flies into the missile's path and tries to push it off course. She stops it from exploding, but it drags along the ground, finally crushing her underneath before it grinds to a stop. At that moment, Batman's iron face cracks, and he digs furiously in the rubble under the missile, shouting Diana's name. When there is no response, he gives up, but then the missile body lifts and Diana emerges, holding the guidance system. The city is safe, and the gorillas cheer. Batman tries to hide his dirt-covered gloves from Diana, but she notices them, realizes Batman tried to save her, and kisses Batman on the cheek. Seeing the last missile deactivated, Grodd goes berserk and attacks Flash. Still evading, Flash proposes a fair fight and takes off his headband despite Solovar's protests, inviting Grodd to take off his helmet. Grodd, of course, does no such thing. Smiling, he activates his helmet and screams as it feeds back on itself, due to some subtle sabotage by Flash when he patted it down over Grodd's eyes. To his surprise, Corwin turns out to have not been under Grodd's mind control. Instead, she had genuinely fallen in love with him. The League meets up in Gorilla City, where the leaders thank them for their help. Solovar shows them Grodd, now a brain-dead vegetable, bearing an almost comic resemblance to a zoo ape. However, as the League and Solovar walk away, the vacant look in Grodd's eyes disappears, and they narrow with hatred.
Several years pass by, and Lex Luthor, after trying repeatedly to resurrect Brainiac from his remaining fragment, continue to fail. He then realizes that because Grodd was the one who found it and held it over Luthor's head, Grodd must be withholding important information in order to block Luthor's goal. Grodd refuses to talk when Luthor and his new girlfriend confront him in his holding cell and tries to negotiate a deal. Luthor becomes determined to force his way into Grodd's mind and literally take Grodd's knowledge for himself, using Grodd's mind control helmet. Other members of the Legion, however, are dissatisfied with Luthor's leadership, fearing that he's obsessed and unbalanced, but Luthor offers them a plan that will make them all rich. This pacifies most of the Legion, but some still have misgivings about Luthor's leadership, most notably Dr. Polaris.
Meanwhile, in the Watchtower, Dr. Fate proposes that he will try to locate Grodd by tracing the psychic resonance left when Flash was under Grodd's mind control. Meanwhile, at the same time, Luthor tries to hack into Grodd's mind as well. The two processes are started at the same time, and Luthor and Flash's brains are accidentally switched. Luthor, whose physical self is Flash, immediately runs amok in the Watchtower, looking for a way to escape and thinking of several new and destructive uses for Flash's powers. On the other hand, Flash, who appears in Luthor's body, has no idea what is really going on. Flash only discovers what has happened when he goes into the men's room and sees himself in the mirror. He has to bluff his way through leadership of the Legion of Doom, especially while other members are becoming suspicious. He confronts Grodd, who knows what happened since he was involved in the switch, but Grodd says he's not going to bust Flash to the Legion. Instead, Grodd will enjoy the show, waiting for the moment the truth is inevitably revealed. However, Flash has the luck on his side today, as Lex Luthor had already explained his latest plan to the crew, so Flash doesn't have to reveal his ignorance. In fact, Flash cleverly manages to get the Legion to explain Luthor's plan to him. The plan is to steal a shipment of 100 million newly minted euros from Casnia, which has recently switched to Eurozone currency due to going democratic and joining the European Union. Polaris adds that it will be the largest single robbery in history. Flash goes along on the heist in hopes of sabotaging it, but Luthor, from the Watchtower, sends a communication signal to the Legion and reveals that their Luthor is actually a Justice League member in disguise. Now more suspicious than ever, Dr. Polaris puts Flash on the spot by asking something the real Luthor would know. Polaris asks about his real name from the Flash, and unable to answer, Flash makes one last desperate dive for the communication equipment in hopes of sending an SOS to the League. Now convinced that Luthor is an imposter, the Legion seizes Flash. However, a good part of Flash's message got through to where Mr. Terrific could trace the signal and dispatch Dr. Light, Steel, and Ice to the scene. The Leaguers arrive and a brief battle ensues. Dr. Polaris's magnetic powers easily start throwing around Steel's metal armor and hammer, which gives Tala the chance to conjure an escape portal. The Legion abandons the money but still manages to take Flash with them as their prisoner. Meanwhile, Luthor, who is in the body of the Flash, diverts the pursuing League members to another part of the Watchtower, then speeds onto the teleport pad. Mr. Terrific shuts off the artificial gravity, causing Luthor to float off the pad. Mr. Terrific taunts Luthor, saying speed is useless without gravity. Luthor scoffs and uses Flash's speed to propel himself downward, at which point Mr. Terrific turns the gravity back on, and Luthor rockets into the floor, knocking himself unconscious. Dr. Fate reverses the mind switch and Flash returns to his body. At first, Green Lantern is still unsure if it is really Wally, so Wally begins to tell the story of John's nickname before he joined the Marines. At which point, John cuts him off and confirms that Wally is back. Mr. Terrific asks Wally about the Legion, but all Wally learned is that the villain's headquarters is in a swamp somewhere. At the Legion's headquarters, Lex Luthor, who has also been restored to his own body, is being held prisoner. Some of the Legion aren't sure he's really been changed back. Polaris suspects it's really Johns as a spy, but then decides that he doesn't care. He's taking over the Legion himself anyway. Polaris prepares to kill Luthor, but Luthor merely touches a control on his belt, turning Polaris's power back on himself and imprisoning him. The button also released the bonds that were holding Luthor captive. Luthor explains that, in augmenting the abilities of all Legion members, he has also given himself the power to override them. Luthor dares anyone else to challenge him, but there are no takers. Luthor is still in charge. Tala, who is seriously warming up to the new Luthor, is disappointed. Well, that of course is no surprise to me, as we all know how romantic the Flash can be, right guys? Thank you for watching Second Look. Like, comment, share, and subscribe for more awesome videos. Have a nice day.